Environmental Association for more than 20 years. Enrico has a BS in biology from King's College and a law degree from the Columbus School of Law. Before joining Seatuck, he worked as a staff attorney for the National Audubon Society and the Georgetown Law School Environmental Law Institute. A bit about Seatuck. The organization pursues its mission by advocating for wildlife and advancing conservation projects, engaging community scientists in wildlife research, offering high-quality environmental education opportunities for Long Islanders of all ages. So please welcome Enrico. And we can see your screen. Looks good.
Great. Thank you, Bill, for the nice introduction. It is, I'm always impressed by the work that LIISMA and all the partners here are doing. It's nice to be a part of the group and to be here today. Although I have to confess, I'm a little distressed by the news about new ticks. It's thrown me off a little, so I'm going to try to forge ahead. So this project we've been working on at West Brook in Great River on the South Shore of Long Island has been on for a couple of years. I'll just quickly though say that I'm going to talk about some of the work, and I get to do this because I work with an awesome team at Seatuck, and I get to talk about the work that they're doing. Maureen Dunn, Mike Bettini, Ariel Santos, Emily Hall, and John Turner. All of them to some extent have been involved in this project. So Westbrook Pond is, well, what used to be Westbrook Pond is just south of Sunrise Highway. It's technically part of Bayard Cutting Arboretum. If you drive the merge at the Oakdale merge, as it's known on Sunrise, you probably have seen this pond on the south side of the road. As you're going east, especially, you get a good view of it. It used to be a kind of choked up pond with lots of aquatic invasives and other aquatic plants. There to orient you, that's Sunrise Highway and Montauk Highway, right where they sort of come together. And as I said, it's sort of next to Connetquot State Park, but technically part of Bayard Arboretum. It's that it's at the very bottom of this image here, but its watershed flows north there into that light green area, just west of Connetquot. And this is what it used to look like. This is the view looking south from Sunrise Highway at the dam down below. It was a popular fishing spot. You could always see a car or two parked on Montauk Highway. It was impounded more than 120 years ago. The gentleman who owned the property was part of the sort of class of rich New Yorkers that were coming out to the South Shore for hunting and fishing, and part of the group gathering there at the Sportsman's Club. So he bought some property, created his own impoundment to attract waterfowl for hunting. And over the years, it has developed as a warm water fishery, and with bass and bluegill and such, and did attract some local fishing interests. This is under the weir boards looking upstream under the dam, and it's those boards that failed. On June 11th, there was a storm. I don't know a lot of the details, but I think my understanding is some log or something broke one of the bottom boards, and that led to sort of just a catastrophic failing of all those old boards that were holding back the dam. State Parks tried to get in and repair it, but there was, it was an old structure. The rails, as I understand it, were themselves bent, and so they would have had to be replaced. The concrete holding the rails is quite old and needed to be addressed. So before Parks could do anything about it or get it stopped, the boards all sort of collapsed. And this is some of the old infrastructure in the earthen dam itself. But eventually the pond drained in a matter of a few days, caused a little bit of flooding at Montauk Highway, but otherwise didn't cause there's no downstream homes or anything to cause any problems. But it drained pretty quickly. This is again the same view looking south towards the dam. This is the view looking up at Sunrise Highway. And It was, as you would expect, a muddy mess for a while. That was what it looked like as the soils started to continue to drain. Lots of yellow lily plants that used to choke out the pond were sort of still laying there in the mud. But over time, it started to dry up. The biomass stayed on top. You could see the holes where the sunfish had made their nests, and this is what it looked like. Just like within 2 weeks, the stream started to sort of find its old channel and started to carve through the 100 years of sediment and sort of work its way down towards the dam. And one of the reasons that we were most excited about this at Seatuck is that this is a site that, even though it's crossed by the Long Island Railroad and by Montauk Highway, those are restrictions, but not complete breakage of the connectivity of the waterway. And of course, it's also impounded slightly by Sunrise Highway, but again, the water is flowing under the road. There's not a dam there. It's just restricted and causes that upstream impoundment. But upstream of that, the entire waterway sits within a protected riparian corridor. Really great habitat in there, and you can walk all the way up to its headwaters there in some marshy woodlands, and it's really what a stream on Long Island used to look like. There's very few sites like this. So with the dam gone at Westbrook Pond, this stream was flowing from its headwaters to the bay, except for those 3 restrictions, unimpeded. And that's a rare thing on Long Island. We, as you may know, are involved in a river revival project trying to reconnect rivers and streams across Long Island. There's more than 140 in Nassau and Suffolk alone. And there's 1, maybe 2 or 3 significantly sized creeks that are not dammed up somewhere. One of the most well-known is Alewife Creek out in Noyak that flows out of Big Fresh Pond. That's never been dammed. It has a few road crossings, but one of the few creeks that's never been dammed. So Westbrook, with the pond dam broken, created a pretty exciting opportunity for anybody interested in reconnecting waterways. And one of the biggest reasons is because the waterways are many coastal streams are a connection between our coastal ecosystem and our uplands. And they serve an important role in moving sediments and nutrients and wildlife that move back and forth. The most important of which are diadromous fish. These are fish that split their life cycle between freshwater and salt water. The word diadromous has a root of running, and dia is through. So these, again, are fish that move between saltwater and freshwater. It might not sound like that big a thing, except that less than 1% of all the world's fish can do it. Most saltwater fish, you put them into a freshwater pond, would die immediately, and vice versa is also true. The chemistry between these 2 types of water is very different, and it's a special, unique thing that fish can move between them. And these fish are really important to the coastal ecosystem because of what they do. They move from the ocean into fresh water, and in the process are moving ocean-derived energy. It's from the ocean into the estuary, into the rivers and stream, and into the uplands. And in the process, feeding lots of things. The adult river herring, for example, are feasted on by lots of seafaring fish and marine mammals, and then into the bays where striped bass and flounder will feed on them. Osprey, notoriously, or not notoriously, but famous for timing their migration north to coincide with the river herring migration. And then as they move in, each female is laying up to 250,000 eggs. All of those tiny little packets of ocean-derived protein are helping to sort of feed lots of other species upland, and as they get carried into the surrounding forests. So important that these streams are open. Unfortunately, as I said, there's very few on Long Island that are. Dams are coming down around the country, but not so much on Long Island. There's not been an intentional dam removal. We have lots of dams. Almost, as I said, every stream on Long Island has one. Most of them have multiple dams, impounded originally to power mills, grist mills, sawmills. Also for cranberry, there was a significant cranberry industry on Long Island for a while. And then ice harvesting. I was sort of get school kids look at me funny when I say we had to harvest ice, but this was a reason a lot of small creeks were dammed up so the ice could be slow, the water could be slowed down so ice could form, and it could be harvested in the wintertime for use throughout the year. So there's been some success over the past 10 years installing fish passes, fish ladders. This is the first permanently installed fishway on the Carbons River at South Haven County Park. This is the nature-like fishway at Grangeville Park on the Connetquot River. And this is the newest on the Mill River in Rockville Center. This is the Mill River is the river that flows through Hempstead Lake State Park. So there are improvements happening. And then we've made some efforts to install eel-specific passes in a few places. But there's been no dams removed. This is a scene from off Long Island, an effort we're trying to bring to Long Island to try to get past this legacy of dams and fully reconnect our rivers and streams. But it hasn't happened intentionally. The dam at Sunken Meadow State Park failed during Hurricane Sandy, and that's been a great restoration story. But this dam, having failed in 2019, is also a really unique opportunity, and I would argue one of the most important ecological sites on Long Island at this point. I mentioned that the dam itself, the structure, the spillways, it's called the earthen dam, is in some state of is old, it's 120 years old, and in some disrepair. So it wasn't immediately repaired for that reason. And so State Parks has been unofficially sort of studying the site, the infrastructure, but also the former pond basin. They had to have a consultant engaged to do that. They have not made a decision about the future of the site officially. COVID has slowed down some of the studies, unfortunately. So we're sort of in a holding pattern. Meanwhile, Seatuck has been working to try to, with State Parks and others, to try to assess the site and get a handle on what's, this exciting restoration that's happening there. This is a photo from just August. Again, this is only a few months after it failed, and you can see how much more that the creek has sort of found its old channel. In fact, you can't quite make them out on this photo, but further down, there are stumps lining the waterway there. And the stumps that we expect are Atlantic white cedar because they've been underwater for more than 100 years and are still sort of hard as rock and intact. But they're right at the edge of this current channel. So the creek, it seems, has found its old channel and is flowing where it used to flow 120 years ago. So we started doing these assessments with the Long Island Botanical Society. That's Steve Young there, the president of the society, with John Turner. And then the plants kept growing. This is later in the fall, in September, we had Steve Young, who was since retired, but was a New York State botanist, come down and spent a lot of time with us, looking at things with his hand lens and, getting on his hands and knees and pondering over plants. I learned how slow botanical surveys can be. It took us a long time to make much forward progress because there was a lot to look at. A lot of detail, looking at sedges in particular, and trying to figure out. Turned out there were some rare sedges, but they're had to go back to the lab for confirmation. This is a carnivorous. I have the name, but this is a tiny little carnivorous plant that attracts and captures invertebrates under the ground in these little sacks. And lots of exciting plants. State parks did this this nice map of the different plant communities. But on our first survey that Steve Young and Lives did, they had 71 native species, only 12 non-native species, growing out of a seed bank that was underwater and under sediment for 120 years. So pretty exciting restoration. Lots of other cool critters crawling around and lots of dragonfly species, butterfly species. It was really just exciting to be on the site. It really seemed ecologically rich right away, as everything was taking advantage of the native plants and the new habitat. I mean, freshwater wetlands like this are rare in Long Island. So it was no surprise that it attracted lots of attention. The bird diversity in particular was quite impressive. And we did a study of the eBird data for the site over an 8-year period. Before that 2019 dam failure, there was a total of 66 species recorded on site. In the 3 years since, we're more than twice that now at 134 species. Not surprisingly, the habitat has been diversified. There's great mudflats and freshwater wetlands, and it's just not an open water impoundment anymore, and attracting species like the solitary sandpiper and lots of other wading birds. So it's, again, ecologically exciting spot. Unfortunately, not all is well, and there was some Phragmites on the site that has been there for a long time on the berm of the highway, Sunrise Highway, and then also stretching down around both sides. You can see it there on the behind these volunteers on the north edge of the pond, both on the east and west side. This is the map that GEI did. They walked the boundary of the densest stand. And you can see how it's encroached there down around both sides from the berm at Sunrise. So like all the other plants, this is great habitat, and the Phragmites, like all of them, is eager to take advantage of it. I said it's like one of those armies in the Lord of the Rings, sort of waiting on the horizon just to storm down into the basin and take over. So our effort really has been to try to stop it. And even though State Parks has not made a plan for this site yet, we've committed to trying to hold the line, because as you all know, if it's left alone for a couple of years, it's going to the whole basin will be full of frag. So the first thing we did in that fall of 2019 was cut the seed heads off of those large stands, especially up on the berm of the highway. And then starting in this is some of our volunteer team that worked on that. But then starting in 2020, we started scheduling volunteer work days just to get after those pioneering shoots. We knew we couldn't tackle the big stands, but we were trying to keep the young shoots that were expanding by excuse me, 1 second. My dog's water bowl was behind a closed door, so I had to address that, sorry. So we're, again, not trying to get at the big stands, but addressing the shoots that were just sprouting up by seed or the long, the rhizomes that were reaching into the basin, pulling up. A lot of them were literally right on the surface or just under the surface, and in some cases it became a game to see how long of a piece you could pull up. But some of them were 20 and 30 feet long. It's really amazing how they push into that habitat. So we had a lot of great work days. We had days with some corporate partners at Covanta came. We had Blue Point one day. I think we were there 3 times in 2020, 6 or 7 times last year, and already twice this year, trying to hold the line. But as any of you know that tried to remove frag. If once it's in a dense stand, it's very hard. So we were excited to get some help from LIISMA and some funding to bring in a consultant, to bring in GEI consulting to try to address the large stands with some herbicide treatments. And, you know, something we're not totally crazy about doing treatment in a sort of sensitive site like this, but you know, we've been opposing herbicide treatments in other places, but here, especially that the home base of this stand is on the berm of the highway. It seems like a really difficult place to sort of excavate and dig it out, and we think this is our only option to try to prevent this. You know, the alternative is to watch this site just get wiped out. So we've been excited to be working with Yuri and the team at State Parks, and they've been really cooperative about, you know, encouraging us to sort of do this work while we wait for an official decision. This is Damon and Luke Gervasio, as you all know from his days at LIISMA, at GEI. They're leading the work with us on the big stands, and then we've been thrilled by the support from LIISMA and to have some of the team out to join us. Somebody else said earlier on the call, it's really always great to have they're a pleasant group and hardworking, and welcome to join us anytime. Again, this is the treatment area limited to the edges of the pond and the berm at the highway. This is what we're trying to protect, and that's all I have. I mentioned the frag fight continues tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, and then on Sunday, June 5th, we'll be there, and probably 6 or 7 more times, especially in the fall. We're going to keep at it. We told Parks we're committed to this site, and we understand that there's no silver bullet here. Even the treatment of the large stands we recognize is going to not be a one-shot deal. We're probably going to have to keep doing that. So we're in it for the long haul. We think this is a really important site. You know, it's a small creek. It's not going to support hundreds of thousands of river herring, but we think it's an important site as a demonstration of what's possible. Everybody we talk to about the idea of dam removal on Long Island fears the muddy mess, and this is an example. This is a proof of what happens and how quickly it happens, and with the right team involved, can become really beautiful and ecologically important sites. So that's my contact information, my email there. If you're interested in joining us for any of the volunteer days, we'd love to have you. You can reach out to me at seatuck.org. And this is just here a moment of sound of a flowing stream on Long Island.
Thank you, Enrico.
Yep.
And thank you for working on this site. This is such an amazing project. It's one of a kind. How often does a dam get removed, either accidentally or on purpose, at this scale? Anywhere really, but especially on Long Island. This is just amazing. It really is. I wanted to add, you mentioned the LIISMA funding. I wanted to add that the funding comes through the Environmental Protection Fund as administered by the DEC. So
right.
We're helping to fund this project a bit. And I'm sure we have some questions in the chat. Let me see if I can bring up the chat. That was a great presentation, by the way. Thank you. All right, let me see. All right, I'll read some of the questions. So Jane Fresculo, Enrico, just this past hour at the Great South Bay meeting, someone unofficially, I don't know if it's a question, but we'll read it. Someone unofficially said the state has decided not to rebuild the dam. John Turner will fill you in more. You may know this already. So the state's not going to rebuild the dam.
I have not heard that officially. I've heard, some suggestions. The facts of it are that the dam is old, and it's not just a question of cutting some new boards and sliding them into the slots. The whole thing needs a rebuild, and then the concrete structure and then the earthen dam is all old, and that becomes a very expensive undertaking at that point. So I think the economics are on our side, and I will be calling John as soon as we're done here. If that's news, I'm here to hear it.
It's unofficial, but it's LIISMA breaking news. I think it's our first breaking news story.
You need a little bigger.
Yes, we do. Yeah, unofficial still, though. We want to be clear. Yeah. We'll check it out. Lara says, this is great. How is the sediment in the historic stream channel? Oh, wait a minute. I moved my chat. Is it sandy, cobbly? Is it still mucky in the stream channel?
Yeah, on the up, it's it's sort of working its way through still, but on that upper section, it's, as I don't know if you can tell from that last video, but it is cobbly. It's sort of gravel and sand and stable. It's not that you could walk right down the middle of it. The lower section is tidally influenced already. We expect with the rising sea levels it will be increasingly tidally influenced. So that section is going to look different over time. And we've had some people say that if we can improve the culvert at Montauk Highway, which at the moment is a 2-foot steel pipe, that we couldn't expand the tidal prism there and even get eventually some salt marsh species taking hold in the coming decades as sea levels rise.
Has there been an impact yet on the migration of American eels and alewife?
Not yet. It's a difficult site to survey. We've had some people there, but we have not been able to document any changes. There's only been a few sightings over the years in the tidal section of the river. So, but there's talk of fishway going in at Connetquot at the main dam at the state park. So we're hopeful that in the coming decade or so that whole system will see a lot more fish.
All right, and the part by the tidal estuary, I guess that would be the lower part. But is it still mixing with salt water there? I assume they're referencing those roads that go across and the blockage there.
Yeah, the prism is the barriers right around those first two crossings, the Montauk Highway and the railroad. The water that pushes up through that old spillway in Westbrook is still, as far as we've been able to tell, fully freshwater. But the salt water's coming.
All right, good. And Enrico, let's see, Yuri said he's planning on having their invasive species strike team out there.
That's great.
At least once this season, focusing on non-frag invasives. So that'll be good.
Yeah, no, I should have mentioned that there's a few other species mixed in there. And yeah, Yuri, thanks for that. And exciting to have them on site.
Any other questions in the chat?